Hey everyone, Kyle Walker here. If you love cars, fixing things, or just want to understand your vehicle better, you're in the right place. I share hands-on tips, smart driving advice, and straight-up car talk without the fluff. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and stick around till the end. You don't want to miss what's coming up. Let's get into
The task
it.
of preserving the integrity of the paintwork in dense urban traffic is an extremely difficult task. At least, even the most disciplined drivers cannot solve it. One of the real ways to protect the bumper of the car, as the most exposed to mechanical damage of the body part, is to cover the bumper with a film. Together with the preservation of paintwork from damage requiring restoration work, the car owner gets a great way to individualize his four-wheeled friend. This process is very complicated, but with certain knowledge and skills you can do it in the garage without resorting to the services, where the cost of such a service can be exorbitant. Advantages of bumper wrapping with protective film. There are actually quite a few ways to protect your bumper from damage while making the exterior of your car unique and one-of-a-kind. Wrapping with a special film compares favorably with most other techniques, and here's why. You get a fairly reliable protection of the paintwork in places most prone to damage. The use of the film allows you to increase the sales value of the vehicle. Most varieties of protective and decorative films, as opposed to painting or airbrushing, allow you to hide many small surface defects, scratches, cracks, chips, and spills. Replacing the film in case of damage is much cheaper and easier than repainting the bumper. The cost of work is an order of magnitude lower than the performance of airbrushing. In addition, this work can be done independently. In this case, the main cost will come to the purchase of film material. It is also important that covering the bumper with protective film does not require a visit to the traffic police department in order to make the appropriate changes to the documents, unlike repainting in another color. Vinyl, polyurethane, and even more so carbon fiber film coatings will reliably protect the underside of the car from the effects of stones, sand, dirt, and insects, which contribute to the premature loss of the car's aesthetic appearance. Varieties of protective and decorative films. Protective film materials are often called anti-gravel, and this name really reflects their basic task, protection of paintwork from damage by external objects and materials. However, their functionality is not limited to this, and the complex of useful properties depends entirely on the type of film. To date, the most widespread are protective materials of three types. Vinyl, made on the basis of polyurethane, carbon. If we make a small excursion into history, the first to appear were vinyl films, which by their chemical composition are close relatives of plastic. This means that they can change their characteristics, including linear dimensions, under the influence of temperature, but after hardening they become rigid. Polyurethane is a material that has much in common with rubber. Therefore, such a film is able to stretch easily, does not require thermal treatment, and after stretching is as easy to take the same size. It is not surprising that gradually polyurethane products began to displace vinyl analogs. If you analyze the history of its appearance, it turns out that, like many other advanced technologies, the first time polyurethane film was used by the military. It was used to treat helicopter blades during the Desert Storm campaign, which allowed to avoid rapid wear of the blade material. Under the influence of wind and sand, factors that are usual and natural for the climate of the Middle East. While proven in extreme conditions, the film began to be used in the automotive industry and many other manufacturing industries. However, as well as vinyl, which was originally used to protect outdoor advertising, exposed to the action of aggressive environment. Protective film on the bumper made of carbon has appeared relatively recently, in 2003, but carbon itself as an extremely strong and lightweight material has been used before. In particular, it was actively used in the construction of Formula One cars, and this is another example of how a high-tech product has become mass-produced. Let's consider the features of each of the listed materials. Vinyl film, despite certain disadvantages, fading under the influence of ultraviolet light, vulnerability to chemically active substances. Vinyl film material has been and remains one of the most popular, in many respects, due to its affordable cost. Its thickness is about 100 microns, and the most popular option is considered transparent material, which is mainly used in the gluing of car body parts. Read also, How to remove drips on the car after painting. There are also opaque, matte films on sale, but they are used quite rarely. Because if you get even minor damage, the whole part will have to be re-glued, of course, if the owner wants the exterior of his car was always flawless. Protective qualities of transparent vinyl film on the bumper are quite acceptable. It will reliably protect the lower part of the car from cracking, scratches, chips, and other minor damage. Will be a reliable barrier to sand, small stones, and ice flakes. If the adhesive technology is carefully followed, it will be practically invisible. Another undoubted advantage of vinyl is the ability to easily remove the film from the entire surface. Such a need may arise if you, for example, want to repaint your car. To do this, you need to use a construction hairdryer. As a result of heating, the film is easily separated from the paintwork, leaving no traces. About the protective properties of this material can be judged by the fact that in most service stations, when covering the bumper with vinyl film on, it give a 5-year warranty. However, you can do it yourself, regardless of the time of year. Polyurethane film, as already mentioned, in its physical properties, polyurethane is closer to rubber than to plastic. It is an elastic, but very strong material with a thickness of 150 to 200 microns. Among other advantages of the protective polyurethane film can be emphasized: excellent resistance to most varieties of external influences, including aggressive environments and materials, resistance to impact. A shot from a pneumatic gun from a 5-meter distance will not cause any visible damage to the bumper. Unlike vinyl, polyurethane does not burn out in the sun, does not yellow over time. This material does not deform under the influence of high or low temperature. It is highly resistant to a wide range of detergents and polishes. Due to its high elasticity, the process of gluing polyurethane material is much easier than vinyl material. Although this film perfectly protects the bumper from chips, scratches, and impacts, it has certain disadvantages. In particular, it does not provide the same shine of the coating as vinyl. However, this is not always a disadvantage. If you see a car with a matte coating on the road, you should know that the factory has been using polyurethane film instead of matte paint for quite a long time. The second significant disadvantage is a much higher cost. A meter of budget vinyl will cost you 700 to 750 rubles, while the same amount of polyurethane film will cost 300 to 400 rubles. Carbon film. The main difference between this type of protective film materials and its analogs is its multi-layer structure. The technology of its manufacture provides for the interweaving of threads of rubber and carbon fiber, which are bonded with epoxy resin. Needless to say, this material has exceptional strength and resistance to temperature influences. This is evidenced by the fact of active use of carbon in the space industry. While the film remains flexible and can be laid on virtually any surface, regardless of the geometry of bends. That is why the carbon film is easily glued on the bumper of the car, which is not characterized by straightness of forms. Since 2008, carbon protective film has been produced in mass quantities, and every year the characteristics of this material become more and more perfect. The only and very serious disadvantage of carbon films is their high cost, which is due to the complexity of the manufacturing technology and the high cost of components from which it is made, necessary tools and materials. If you, having familiarized yourself with the advantages of modern protective films, decide to perform bumper armor film yourself, remember that it is quite difficult to perform the operation, which should be approached in all arms. You will need a stationary knife with a supply of replacement blades, lint-free rags. It is better to use special wipes. Industrial alcohol makes it easier to remove air bubbles from under the film. White spirit can be used instead. Painter's tape protects other body parts from contamination. Plastic, rubber, or felt rakel for smoothing the protective film during gluing. Scissors for preparing pieces of film of the required shape and size. Soap solution required when using the wet method of gluing. Construction hair dryer used when gluing vinyl films that require heating. Read also electronic gas pedal, its faults and adjustment technology of gluing the bumper. As noted above, covering the bumper with a protective film is an operation that requires great care. In most cases, such work is performed with an assistant, or better, two. At the same time, the process itself consists of several stages: preparatory, actual pasting, and the most common methods of dry and wet application of the film, final fixation of the film material. Let's consider these stages in more detail. Preparation of the surface of the bumper, like the work associated with the application of paintwork, the protection of the bumper with anti-gravel film involves the same preparatory operations. First of all, we clean the surface from all contaminants, sand, dirt, insect residue, greasy deposits, using the appropriate auto chemistry. Household detergents will do. After cleaning and drying, the surface of the bumper should be thoroughly degreased, using a household degreaser, alcohol mixtures, or special means for silicone removal. Gluing. Let's start considering the methods of applying the film with the simpler method of dry laying. If all preparatory operations have already been performed, the necessary tools have been prepared, and the film of the required type, color, thickness, and size has been purchased, you can start the procedure of dry laying. It involves performing the following actions. A very important stage is to cut out pieces of the right size and shape. Any mistake is fraught with damage to the material, and if it is carbon or polyurethane, your costs can grow significantly. Today, films with channels are available that make it easier to squeeze air out when gluing. Carefully apply the film to the bumper. Sticky side. Your assistant should help hold it, although it is better to fix it with the same painter's tape. If it is vinyl, start heating the coating with a hair dryer, making sure that the air temperature does not exceed 650 to 700 degrees Celsius. In the heated area, start stretching the film while smoothing it out in the course of pasting, in order to avoid the appearance of folds and air bubbles. After the film has covered the entire surface of the bumper, fold the protruding edges inwards and glue in the same way. You can simply cut off the protruding edges with a stationary knife, but you must be very careful not to damage the edge of the bumper. It is desirable for 10 to 15 days after pasting not to subject the car to washing, and try to drive it in a gentle mode during the specified period of film material can give a slight shrinkage. Wet gluing differs from dry gluing by the necessity to keep the surface of the bumper in a wet state, but there is no need to heat the film. The technology of application is generally similar, but the surface of both the bumper and the film must be moistened with a warm soap solution before laying. Smoothing of the material is done with a soft spatula. If air bubbles cannot be removed by smoothing, you can use a medical syringe. We fill it with a small amount of diluted 25% isopropyl alcohol, pierce the bubble, pour the technical liquid, and after a few seconds, pull it back into the syringe. Take it out and smooth the bubble again. It is important to make sure that all such bubbles are removed during taping, because after the material dries it will be difficult to do so, and even impossible without applying punctures. When gluing the bumper with the film, should be careful. Any uncalculated movement can bring to nothing all the previously done work. So it is desirable to work preferably in two. This will reduce the probability of marriage. Fixing the film. The final stage consists in drying the film with a hair dryer to fix it on the surface of the bumper. It is necessary to use a tool with the ability to adjust the temperature of the air coming from the nozzle. Drying is done at a temperature not exceeding 110 degrees Celsius. If you do not adhere to this rule, the film material may warp, go in waves. Note that the rear bumper is glued in the same way. The main rule when performing this operation independently: extreme accuracy. It is highly recommended to practice on small parts with similar geometry. This will give you the necessary skills to perform the main work. In conclusion, applying a bumper protective film is a straightforward process that can significantly enhance the longevity and appearance of your vehicle. By following the steps outlined in this video, you can effectively protect your bumper from scratches, chips, and other damage. Remember to take your time during the application to ensure a smooth and bubble-free finish. With a little patience and practice, you can achieve professional-looking results right at home. Thank you for watching, and we hope you feel empowered to tackle this project on your own.